just a couple of points. I think the first one was don't reinvent the wheel and don't make an Irish bin wheel. So adopt PAS 1192, consider adopting the work stages in your IBA, or at least adjusting whatever way we have to. There's obviously linked to contracts there. I guess that's the harder point. We have a few other points as well. Contracts, we got that. Oh yes, just specify COBE and for public clients to get their OIRs at least at a high level sorted out, so we could write some EIRs that meant something.
Great, thank you. One of the things that we looked at was the advice we would give to the Office of Government Procurement. As much clarity in the EIRs, AIRs and contracts. The one thing that was evident from the Grange Gorman development was the emphasis on value over cost, and we felt that in the contract, if there is always an emphasis on value over cost, then there is more opportunity for designers and contractors to try and put the extra work into developing their BIM capabilities, because they know that that will be valued in their submission. So value over cost in contracts. In terms of FM, trying to ascertain the client's requirements, which we spoke about earlier, but also trying to develop bespoke ways to respond. One of the things, again, that I picked up, or we picked up on from the presentation, was that the Revit model was handed over at the end of the Grange Gorman development, and that the client and the end user not necessarily been in a position to be able to use it. So just trying to think about the best ways that maybe that information could have been downscaled or adapted or adopted so that they could use it. So just trying to think about end user and how best to deliver. And another big thing that came out of it was just in relation to SMEs. We felt that larger enterprises and organisations would be best placed to adopt BIM if a roadmap was to come down the line, but the small and the medium would be the ones that would struggle, and to make sure that they wouldn't be left behind. You know, whether or not that would be looking at the way that we tender and procure and trying to push the digital collaborative tools that we probably already use, like Dropbox or cloud servers, stuff like that. Set minimum requirements for that for the things that we are comfortable about. Using video phones, the video on your phone for installation or commissioning, and submitting that as part of your FM handover. Things that people would feel comfortable setting minimum standards for that, and basically making the use of the collaborative tools that are there before they would go on to the BIM process. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Will I just choose?
Yeah.
Anyone wants to talk from this table? Claire. So just in terms of question one and the BIM strategy, important points for us in terms of advice was that any strategy really needs to be extremely clear and definitive. And like the UK had with their data drops and the specific interim deliverables, we need to really think about what those are and be clear in what we're asking for. I think the UK's list was probably not 100% practical, and I think the response to those data drops and requirements turned out a little different than expected. So I think we need to look at the lessons learned in the UK before we adopt any strategy. There's a wealth of information there, so we could probably use their lessons learned before we implement anything. But I think just about clear definition, it needs to be industry-wide, and it needs to have buy-in from all the various public stakeholders. Something that's going to be workable, otherwise it's just likely to fail.
Okay, so for the first question, we were along the same lines as well, that don't reinvent the wheel, and that the UK have a good model of this that we should look at. And it was also mentioned that the Scottish model had some good points as well of assessing each project of whether it was then it's applicable. And also in Hong Kong, there's a good model of it being related to building control. It was thought that, as BAM has said, that changing the process of tender requirements could be another route to introducing a bill that, like what BAM had said, to put the focus onto process rather than just cost. For the second question, we also thought that larger companies were better capable of implementing them. And the big thing that came up was that what you have to do is to look at the workflows and not just the models, and focus on that side of it. And we mentioned that of course, the initial investment for small companies was large, that it would be. We have a few lines on our table. So it was mentioned that departments like the Department of Education aren't necessarily taking a lead in this, as they don't actually run buildings that they build, that it's left to the Board of Management, so they're not taking up then perhaps as much. And we also have local authority here, and that's they're considering how it works in the planning process. So how it is used to reduce planning controversies and that, being able to show people what is going to be built, the implications of all that. And the last questions. Were yes, but we were wondering, basically, is Ireland ready to collaborate? That we're getting a lot of information, and just wondering, are people on board to be able to change the process?
We had some good discussions on this table, and the conclusion of the team was it would be tremendously beneficial for the industry to have a standardized framework for project delivery. The last thing anyone wants to figure out after when you bid for a job or after you got the project, what are the tools, processes, and skills needed to deliver the project. So the expectation is that if there can be a standardized framework which can be consistently applied, adjusted to the needs of the specific projects, that would be very beneficial for consistent project delivery. The second question, the table also believed that the skills and competence exist in Ireland to deliver on these expectations. But again, going back to the response to the first question, if there was a very well-defined framework, then the industry and the resources can adapt themselves to deliver on those.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there. Just in terms of question one first, I guess it's to emphasize starting early with the adoption of the BIM process for any project. There's a bit of confusion, I think, in just like exactly how an execution plan, how many like meetings you should sit down and actually talk to and just get it all sorted, and who was responsible for that. I was very interested in the layout at the start on whose responsibility, the roles, and if we could get more information on that, and that would be great. As well as the release of a roadmap, and there's also the development of common data environments as well. I know we use like Dropbox and QNAP and various other things, but if there was one that we could find out is BIM probably a bit easier to use, maybe on a server within a company, design team's company, or would it be third party, or how is that protected, and just the security issues there. In terms of question 2, I just feel that there's an education gap between the facilities management group and the design team. So when we do hand over the BIM model finally to the facilities group, are they just going to open up in the 3D viewer and just, spin it around and just say, oh yeah, that looks grand? So I think there's an importance of finding out, is that going to be able to use it? Are they actually going to be working on that? Do they need to have the exact same software to do so? And just its final use. Yeah, thank you.
We might just do one more. Anyone, please? Thank you.
Thanks. In relation to question 1, this table we discussed when we recommend early adoption of PAS 1192, BSA 541 is an important factor in relation to BIM health in Ireland. Also, a date and mandate in relation to its implementation would be fundamental in relation to concentrating the industry's minds and clients' minds in relation to the introduction of BIM. The longer we leave that date, the more likely it is that the industry will drag its heels in relation to implementation of that. Also, there should be a government incentive scheme in relation to the training of the industry to get up to speed. And also, the institutions should be working on an Irish-based example of the work stages that have been adopted in the UK. And I know we're going to, but that was part of the conversation today.
Just one quick point. We started David O'Brien there last week at the NBC, and as he said, there's a statement of intent coming shortly. He hosted in a month. One of the things they're going to be very strong on is non-specific data environments, non-software specific. It has to be generic, and that seems to be what's been done all over the world. So whether it's IFC or whatever it is, it has to be non-denominational.